MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. This is episode 308. Once again, I am joined by Jason Vevang. Jason, it's not today, but it is maybe the best day of the MLS year when people are probably listening to this, hopefully soaking in some decision day knowledge. What do you love about decision day? That's how I'm going to start this episode.
I just love the fact that Eastern Conference and Western Conference all kick off at the same time. So you're basically just like constantly refreshing scores and trying to see what's happening in other games. And obviously, like, we're going to go through a lot of scenarios today. And that's, I think, what makes decision day fun is that no matter what, like, there's always something that could happen for some there's teams that are solidified in their spots. And we know those, and we'll probably say that briefly. But, like, there's a lot that can change. And I think in both of these conferences, there's jostling for pretty important positions based on who you might play or where you might end up. So, I think just soaking it all in and, like, just sitting down and in trying to keep up is the best part.
The best part I definitely think is like you're just sitting on the couch and you have either multiple screens going. Now with MLS 360, it's a complete different game changer. Whatever it may be, right? Like, you have what you're trying to pay attention to in the absolute clusterfuck that is the schedule of decision day. And yes, Jason, you are correct. All of the Eastern Conference games are going to be happening all at once this upcoming Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then after all of that, we get a little bit of a breath, probably, grab a drink, use the bathroom, sit right back down, because all the Western Conference games are going on at 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And that is what we are going to try to preview, what we're going to try to wrap our heads around, and hopefully help you guys wrap your heads around as well for this. But ultimately, I tried to do my best, Jason, on our notes, and this is probably helpful for listeners as well, to put the games in somewhat of like an importance order, in terms of, like, if two playoff teams are playing each other, that probably feels a little bit more important than two non-playoff teams. So I put that at the top of our talking points, and then so on and so forth. But we are going to keep it chronological, just like what is going on with the schedule, right? Eastern Conference first, we'll tackle all those, then we'll go into the Western Conference.
They're all starting at the same time. So.
Exactly, right? Doing the best here that we can. The one thing that I do just want to point out, and this is more scheduling for listeners' sake and everything like that. So decision day is this upcoming Saturday, October 19th. The wild card matches, the play-in games, this game between seed 8 and seed 9 in both conferences, are going to be held next Tuesday, October 22nd, and next Wednesday, October 23rd. So Jason and I
try a small one. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think if schedules allow for it and we can figure it out, because our schedules aren't always the most fun things to align, if we can, I say we try to get a little preview game in for both of those wild card matches. If not, then the next time you'll be hearing from us, we'll know the results of the wild card games, and we'll be previewing the round one games ultimately. And just also for listeners' sake, right? Playoff format, it's the same as last year. The round one games, so the one seed playing the no, is the one seed, am I dumb, Jason?
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying the playing.
The one gets a bye, doesn't it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Oh wait, no, they play. Technically, no, they don't. They used to. They play the play-in game winner.
This is why I hate Major League Soccer.
They change the rules every year on us.
Every year, every other year, I feel like I need to learn the new fucking format. So, apologies, everyone. After the play-in game,
they're best of 3.
Yeah, you do a home away, and then the higher seed gets an additional home game, and then when you get
aggregate, it's first to win 2.
Yes, and then when you get to the conference semis, conference finals, MLS Cup, all single elimination, one game, higher seed hosts, everything like that. So that is a little bit of the cleanup before we dive into decision day.
Hopefully, it didn't make it more confusing.
I definitely just made that way more confusing for people. So, hate me on that. That's fine.
Okay, I was living in like 2021 and they actually did get buys.
I'm living in, still like 2016 when Kai Kamara and Sebastian Giovinco were going for like the MVP race down to decision day. That's where my brain's still at in Major League Soccer terms. But let's dive into decision day 2024 Eastern Conference. Again, all the games starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. And Jason, I'm starting with the only two true playoff teams that actually face each other, I'm pretty sure so far. So the Red Bulls are going to be hosting the Columbus Crew. There's a lot of different results that can happen here. I'm going to read through all of them, and then we'll talk about the matchup a little bit. If the Red Bulls win, they finish on 50 points. They can finish as high as 5th, as low as 7th. So they are locked into a true playoff spot either which way. If they win, lose, or draw. If they win, 50 points, draw 48 points, and Red Bulls loss would keep them at 47 points. Obviously, winning gets you a little bit potentially to get higher up to 5th. Losing will keep them at 7th, and a draw they can potentially finish at 6th. So the Red Bulls are playing for a little bit of seeding here. Probably want that 5 or 6 seed rather than that 7 seed, just based off who you're going to potentially be playing. Columbus, the result really doesn't matter for them here. They did win big on one of the catch-up games last weekend over the New England Revolution. Either which way, Columbus are finishing 2nd in the Eastern Conference. Jason, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I was trying to pull up like
all that.
I was trying to pull up like their recent form, but the FOTMob is the best way to do that, and I just not working.
Got you. I got a form guide here on MLSsoccer.com if you'd like.
It doesn't matter. My personal preference, or what I think will happen, is I think Columbus will win. Obviously, like you said, they have already kind of solidified their spot in 2nd, so we'll probably not see the Columbus we typically see. I still think the Red Bulls have kind of gone back and forth. This is one of those important games where that 5th spot is probably the most. You could argue that maybe the 6th spot might be pretty attractive as well.
I'm going to say 5 or 6 is definitely clear-cut better opponent-wise than 7 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're playing Miami or Columbus, you're playing the top of the league, right? Like, I think you can look at point totals, and maybe you can make arguments for some of the West teams, but I don't think so. I think this whole season we've been talking about it. Like, you don't want to have to play Miami or Columbus in this conference in the playoffs.
No.
And so if you can avoid that, that's really important. So the Red Bulls here have a chance to avoid that. I'm going to say they don't, right? Like, I think the best they would do is draw in this game. Like, it's still Columbus. They're still going to go. Like, Nancy doesn't want to drop any games, and I don't think they want to drop any games going right into the playoffs. You've seen them competing these past few weeks, right? They just beat New England. I believe that was the one game that was they crushed them. But yeah, so my point, I'm gonna say, this is gonna be tough because are we gonna like predict each game and then
I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna
I feel like every time I'm gonna hopefully not overlap with but I think, oh man, it also depends on what other teams do, right?
You don't have to predict like where they're going to finish. You're just going to predict the result of the game. I just want to throw in, before you throw in your prediction there, that this is a very interesting scenario where I think Columbus is going to play like a B team, right? Because I don't think they want to really risk anyone getting hurt before the playoffs. But if somehow this B team, which just smoked the Revs on the weekend, if they beat the Red Bulls, then you're playing the Red Bulls, in the first round of the playoffs, So it's like, not that we played an entire season. Columbus have played more games than anyone else. It's not that Columbus has any more cards to hide, really, but it's like, do you want to show your opposition, every single trick you have in the book at this point? So to me, it's like this is very clear cut. Columbus on the road. Columbus is going to not be playing Cucho. I don't even think you risk Nagby. I don't think you risk anyone like that, right?
I
So,
looked up the form chart, and
yeah.
they have New York Red Bulls have 2 wins in like I don't really want to count all these, but it's like 15 games.
2 wins
So,
in a whole lot.
like 15 games. That's brutal.
I'm
So
just going purely based off of Columbus is probably. I think yes, Jason, you're right. Nancy doesn't want to drop games ever. They're very competitive, and he's openly said you want to win every game you play in. But I do think you got to be a little smart heading into the playoffs. I'm gonna go Red Bulls, get some type of result because they have some of the pieces back. Emil Forsberg, another kind of few weeks healthy. I'm gonna go draw in this one.
I am gonna take a loss for them.
Red Bull loss. Okay.
Red Bull loss.
Okay. I
I
mean,
just like even with the rotated squad, we know Columbus has depth. That's like what rotated. Dejuan Jones is starting. Like,
yeah, ultimately. And
okay,
then Matan, who just got off a hat trick against the Revs, is starting, and Jason Russell Rowe, who's a
yeah,
borderline
who
Canadian
was
international.
he's also like been a clutch in so many games. Like I don't know. I think a rotated squad is arguably as good as the full strength Red Bulls.
I don't disagree with you. I
So
really
that's
don't.
what I'm doing.
Which is still why I give Columbus a chance enough to get a draw to be like
Also, if you beat them and then you play them in the first round, you have like the ultimate like they
fair.
better be afraid, man.
You're just playing potentially 4 straight games against them, which is a little. I
It's
think
tough
is
to win, but you're basically playing like you play their like let's say they win
yeah.
with their B team. Now you put in your A team, it's a whole different team.
I fully agree. I think Nancy, no matter who's in there, wants to play the same style, but obviously,
I
yes,
don't
you
think he cares who he plays in this first round.
no. I think I don't think he cares who he plays, period, to be perfectly honest. I think he's doing him, and it doesn't matter if it's LAFC, if it's
Well, it's one of the
Miami.
things we talked about last playoffs was just like, you know what, they're gonna do whatever they want to do,
Exactly.
and either you adapt or you beat them at doing what you want to do,
Exactly.
which is not an
Exactly.
easy thing. So
Yeah. Let's move on. The next one, and it's the Eastern Conference matchups, they get like there's a big drop off, I think, from 2 playoff teams to this, which ultimately both of these teams can finish in the playoffs. But DC United hosting Charlotte FC, there's a lot that can happen here, so I'm going to run through this as best as I possibly can in a non-confusing way. If DC win, they finish on 43 points, and they can finish as high as 8th, finish as low as 9th. Pretty much DC win, they're in the play-in game. If Charlotte win, they can finish on 51 points, as high as 5th and as low as 6th. So kind of like we talked about last matchup, in a little bit of a better sweet spot in terms of in terms of opponent in the first round. If DC draw, they finish on 41 points, and they're in the play-in game, can finish as high as 8th, as low as 9th. If Charlotte draw, they can finish on 49 points, as high as 6th, but as low as 7th, which puts them in Columbus Crew territory. And then if DC lose, they can finish as high as 8th, but they also can finish as low as 11th and eliminated from the playoffs. A lot needs to also happen for that to happen. And if Charlotte lose, they can finish on 48 points. They still can finish as high as 6th, avoiding Columbus, but still can finish as low as 7th in Columbus territory there. So there is a lot at stake here.
it's gonna be so hard to keep track of that.
I'm not even trying to go down, like, once decision day is over and the final seedings are in place, then I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But there is
Also,
a lot of
I think going forward, you should read it like DC win. This is what can happen. Charlotte lost. This is what
yeah,
Instead of
that's also fair.
one
Whatever,
result.
Jason. I'm just
I'm
trying
just trying to
to.
help the listeners, man, because even I kind of
You lost me on that. Okay, fair.
yeah.
Fair. We're doing live constructive feedback on the podcast here. But Jason, DC Charlotte, there's a lot at stake. DC get a result, they're in the playoffs for the most part, or they're in the play-in game for the most part. Charlotte are kind of fighting to avoid Columbus and get into either a matchup against Cincy or Orlando or New York City, and we'll get to that. But What do you think happens here? Is it more of a we're on rotation? Like, what do you think?
I don't think so. I think this is a pretty tough one, but I don't think either team's going to do like Columbus. I think will do big rotations because they're solid, right? But there's actually a decent chance here that Charlotte could get a very solid opponent in the first round, right? Like if they finish sixth with a win, that I think that's probably based on how Cincinnati's been playing, the best spot to be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to Cincinnati fans, but like 3 losses going into the playoffs, a draw to Nashville before that, like it hasn't been great. They had incredible form midway through the season, but it's dropped off significantly. But DC and Charlotte, like they're playing, like DC for sure is starting their full squad.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's going to be just bomb the ball to Benteke, and that's
They
it.
still need a lot. Like even if they were to lose this, they would need Philly and Atlanta to win, and then I don't remember.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Even if DC lose, yes, DC.
I'm pretty sure if Philly win, they would surpass one.
Philly is the biggest push. There is like Philly wins, they're in for the
because they'd be tied on wins,
and goal differential is much higher.
They would be. There's no world where Philly wins it isn't higher
exactly.
Than
so that's pretty much where DC, if they lose, they can finish. They can finish in 8th, but Philly need to lose, and there's a lot. So.
All right. Well,
if you're confused,
so much to go on here. Yeah. Like I personally think that this game will be. I think a pretty good game because I think they're both going for the win here.
I agree.
And they're both playing pretty decent soccer right now. Like Benteke is still just insane. Charlotte, like their whole team has started to really click. I think them going into the playoffs is scarier than I think I would have felt about them, mid-season. I think they're probably peaking at the right time. So I'm going to say, this was tough. I'm going to say a Charlotte win. I think they're just the better team, and I really have liked how they've been playing in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Charlotte's the better team, obviously, but I think DC's just scrapping for a result ultimately. Yeah. Charlotte wants the win because they want to secure that they're not going to face Columbus. DC, they know they get a point and they're at least playing one more game in the season, So
that's ultimately true. DC only needs a draw, but yeah, I don't know. If you think they're going to park the bus or something?
Charlotte's a very good. I don't know. To me, it's just going to be like if DC can get an early goal off Benteke, where Benteke is going to be playing a young center back pairing in Malanda and Privet, and they've both been insane this season, but the dude's the Golden Boot leader and will most likely win the Golden Boot for a reason. If they can get an early goal, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see a little bit of just sitting back, let's just scrap out a 1-1 game, worst case scenario, and move on, But on the other side,
though, if Charlotte gets out to a lead, though, because
if Charlotte get out to a lead, then DC is going to be on the run. 100%.
And Charlotte's a pretty creative team at this point in the season. Like, what is it, Dean Smith? He's got them moving, man.
Yeah, he does. And look, a lot of these guys are in form still. Ream just played 2 games with the U.S. and whatever. We're not talking U.S. results on this podcast right now. Swiderski's coming off Poland international duty. I'm pretty sure a few other guys kind of got their rounds around international soccer in the last 2 weeks. So I feel confident that Charlotte is fit, that Charlotte is in form, but DC's fighting for their lives. They've been fun. Benteke's been
I would say DC's in form as well, honestly.
I'm going draw. I think DC get in with at least.
You're having a lot of fun this weekend.
We're going 1 points all around, baby. That's it. All right, let's talk the next matchup, which is an interesting one for me here, but Charlotte, CF Montreal hosting New York City FC. I'm going to listen to Jason's constructive feedback and do it this way. If Montreal win, they finish on 43 points. They can finish as high as 8 and as low as 9th. They're in they're in an identical situation to DC United, just to make it super clear for people.
Maybe slightly worse. I don't know. Who would you rather play right now? Would you?
Ultimately.
better teams.
Yes, I mean, whatever. I'm saying in terms of fighting for a playoff life, they're both win, get a result. They're in right, yeah, win, get a result. You're in the playoffs or you're in the play-in game. So Montreal, that's what they're doing. So that's what Montreal is going to fight for a win or a draw for. If New York City lose or draw, you're finishing fifth or sixth. You're avoiding Columbus. You're avoiding Miami, obviously, and that's where it is. This is tough. I don't know if I feel as confident as I do in Montreal as I did for DC, mainly because they don't have Christian Benteke scoring 24 goals across the regular season up top. But Montreal is playing really good soccer as of late. Again, they're fighting for their playoff lives, at least to play one more game before potentially getting smacked by Miami, right? And then New York City, they aren't guaranteed a home playoff spot if they win. They still need Orlando to drop points, but you're guaranteeing yourself a top spot pretty much with any kind of result against a team that is either Orlando in great form or Cincinnati or Cincinnati, Orlando, whatever, and a team's not doing so well. So I don't know. I'm struggling with this one maybe more than any because I don't know if I have confidence in Orlando dropping points for New York City to get a home playoff spot, or I have confidence in Montreal and getting the job done against the New York City team that's scoring a shit ton of goals as of late. So for both teams, I can't really see the positive outcome. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I kind of feel like I think NYCFC is probably going to win this game. That's what I'm going to pick.
Gotcha.
Both of these teams, though, I just have 10 points in their last 5 games, so 3 wins and a draw for that, which is crazy. But I think, again, kind of similar to Charlotte, NYCFC is probably playing the best they've played all season right now, right? These last 3-4 weeks. Before that, there was obviously like I don't know if you want to call it like the dark ages of your season, but I think you would agree there was a little bit there where you were very doubtful they were even a playoff team.
There was a point where I was like, NYC is going to finish up in the play-in game, and I'm going to be very upset.
But I also I don't know if this is a spoiler alert. I do think Orlando will win their game, so
yeah.
I do think that both of these teams will kind of hold positions. If that makes sense, but that's kind of going too far ahead in the notes. But
look, I think New York City wins this game as well. Yes, Montreal is playing much better in recent weeks, but I just think the sheer amount of form that a lot of these guys on New York City are in right now is just absolutely ridiculous. Matt Freese has still been playing great. Alonso Martinez just had an assist for Costa Rica yesterday, I'm pretty sure, or 2 days ago when this dropped. So, New York City's in form. I think they win, but I agree with you, Jason. If we want to just maybe we'll skip one game and just go straight to Orlando City, Atlanta, if you want.
I just want to say I do think while they're both in pretty good form based on points, Montreal beat Chicago, San Jose, and Atlanta. They drew New England, and they lost to Charlotte.
There's one true playoff team in all of that they lost to.
Yeah, and I don't could argue disagree. 2 of the probably the 2 worst teams in the league that they beat. Yeah. Right. NYCFC, you of course, you only play who you can play, right? That's how the schedule works. But NYCFC beat Rebels. They crushed Rebels. They beat Cincinnati. Yeah, you're welcome. They beat Nashville, who is a bad team, and they drew Miami in that, and they also got absolutely hammered by Philly. But that was kind of part of the dark ages. That's I'm coming out. Okay, they needed that.
Look,
so the form is good for both, but it's a very different competition that they've been up against recently.
I also think that's a super fair point. I was going to mention that. I wasn't super confident in who Montreal has played in the last few weeks, so I appreciate that for sure. And that even I think hits home the point even more for both of us that New York City is the better team. New York City is just as in form as Montreal are, and they've beat better teams. So sorry, Montreal, you're going to have to be. I think you lose this game, and I think you're going to be having your fingers crossed that Philly don't win and knock you out, especially if DC and Atlanta kind of get the job done. But that's where this next game's super interesting. Orlando City, who have implications for New York City, are hosting Atlanta United, and Atlanta United, not that they have implications, but their result matters in the whole playing game scenario that we got going on. Orlando City, they win, they're in the home playoff spot, they're done, they're set, they're cool, right? Like that's it. Atlanta, if they lose, then they're out. They're eliminated from the playoffs. If Atlanta draw, they're out. They're eliminated from the playoffs. So pretty much Atlanta needs a win. Orlando, they want a win, prefer a win, because they don't want to get jumped by New York City for a home playoff spot. And that's where this game comes down to. So, Jason, you already said it before. You think Orlando win this game, but anything else you want to add to that?
I think, again, just looking at Orlando, in my opinion, is one outside of probably, and this isn't that hot of a take, right? Outside of Miami and Columbus,
Yeah,
I do think they're the third best team currently.
I agree.
Their last 7 games, they've won 6 of them. The only one they lost was at Columbus in a 4-3 game, right? The other ones were they beat Cincy, they beat Philly, they beat Dallas, they beat Charlotte, and then New England and Nashville, who were obviously not great opponents.
But you play who you play,
Yeah, but I mean, the 4 others they beat are solid opponents, right? You have multiple teams that either are in the playoffs in the East or fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And I personally think Philly's a pretty good team, so I rate that as a decent win. So I don't know if there's too much to add. I think most people would agree Orlando's a better team than Atlanta. And I think most people would probably agree that they're one of the scarier teams heading into the playoffs right now.
I agree. I'm going to keep it pretty short and simple. Facundo Torres has been absolutely on fire the last few weeks. Since they've put Martin Ojeda in that like attacking midfielder, like 10 position, I mean, the offense has clicked so well. Duncan McGuire is getting back on the score sheet consistently. Ramiro Enrique has been scoring a ton. The back line has been playing impressive. Obviously, yes, Columbus did their thing to them, but Columbus does that to everybody. But ultimately, Orlando's the better.
Do their thing that well, right? It was a 4-3 win.
For sure, right? But I'm saying like Orlando's the better team than Atlanta in this matchup. Yes, Miranchuk has been playing much better. He's getting goals, and he actually, I think, looks like a solid piece that Atlanta should build around for the future. But we're not talking future. We're talking in a few days. And I think in a few days, Orlando City take home the win. They take home 4th place, and New York City, with both of our picks of them winning, will finish in 5th. And I think that'll be a nice Orlando New York City matchup in round 1, which has me shitting my pants. But here we are,
They've only allowed Columbus is only sorry, I got sidetracked.
It's fine. I saw you reading. I was just going.
They've only allowed three goals or more in a game 3 times this season.
Yeah. Orlando's legit. Orlando's attack is legit. They remember last playoffs, we were talking about how Orlando's biggest thing was defense, and my biggest concern, you had it as a concern for you as well, was their lack of ability to create, and it was just all on Facundo Torres pretty much. That is no longer there when Martin Ojeda steps in at the 10. Because now you have Ojeda, Luis Muriel, who's a DP coming off the bench. I still don't necessarily love that he's on this roster, but he's been a creative piece out wide. Facundo Torres is still doing his his stuff. Like, Orlando can create now, and I think that maybe they're not defending as well as they did last year. I don't know if Pedro Gaese is the same level of keeper and net, but I mean, this is a good team on all facets of the game. Oscar Pereira has these guys. You love it. You love it. But
before we move on, I will say, just shout out to Atlanta for even being in this position.
Yeah.
Because if you have a team and you lose, I mean, what did they lose? Almada, Miles Robinson,
Giamakis, Caleb Wiley.
Yeah. Derek Etienne Jr. The turnover from last year to this year, and even during the year, if I'm Atlanta, I'm looking at this as a nice kind of, whether they make the playoffs or not, I'm not crying about it, I guess. I'm going into the next season with more confidence and seeing what they can do over the offseason.
If Atlanta can, make the right sporting director hire under I just completely forgot his name, under the head of soccer out there that
Darth
was.
Lagerway.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Geez,
was like,
Garth.
he's still there.
I just completely blanked on his name. Under Garth Lagerway, if they can make the right sporting director hire, I think get the right head
Which,
coach
if
in
you're
there.
going to have confidence with someone, you're going to have confidence with Garth Lagerway.
Exactly. And Garth Lagerway, when he makes a hire, you're going to feel confident about that hire too. Whether it's sporting director, head coach, all of it. And then you bring in a DP number 9 with Moranchuk looking as good as he has the last few weeks for Atlanta. I think Atlanta will be in a good spot in 2025, but they have to make the hires, make the signings.
Maybe they won't trade away my number.
Your golden boot pick.
Golden boot pick, yeah.
All right, let's keep it going. This is another, obviously, all these matchups are important, but another important matchup.
We all know what I'm going to choose.
Philly Union hosting FC Cincinnati. Again, Cincinnati's result does not matter in this one. They're finishing third in the East, period. We mentioned it before. Philly win with their goal differential tied on wins. They're going to be in the play-in game if Philly win. If Philly draw, or if they lose, they're out. But I don't know why I put as low as 11th, they're out. If they draw, they're out. Philly need a win. Cincinnati, the result doesn't matter. So Cincinnati's probably playing somewhat of a B team in my opinion here. But Jason, just tell me why Philly's going to win in your eyes.
I mean, I think the Cincinnati B team is a little concerning. Considering their A team has not been good over the last, you could go 10 weeks back, right? If you look at the form, you have 2 wins in the last 11 weeks. One came against Minnesota, one came up against Montreal. You have 2 draws against Nashville and Columbus. And outside of that, you have so many losses. And some of those losses are bad losses, like losing to Chicago.
That's coming from a Fire fan, folks.
Yeah, I'm gonna admit my team's bad. Sure, did they lose to LAFC, Miami, the Red Bulls? I would actually say the Red Bull loss is pretty bad. Cincinnati. But I think a lot of them are bad losses. They're at Philly, which again I think I said last week is probably a plus for them, considering their away record is actually outside of Miami, the one of the best in the league, and Miami just doesn't abide by same rules.
By MLS rules.
Yeah. So I think I've been saying it for a while. I think Philly is gonna get into the play-in game. I actually, knowing how difficult their end of the season was, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was hoping they would get a win against one of these teams to make me a little more confident. But the loss to Orlando, the loss to Columbus, they're keeping these games close, but they're not winning. They drew to Atlanta, which I think that was kind of a must win, but now they're looking down. Even if they win, they might not make it. So I still think they make it. I'm going to keep my word or whatever. But I don't know. There's not much more to say. I've been saying it the same thing for weeks.
Look, Philly wins. I think they do win because I don't think, anyone on Cincinnati is entertaining the idea of risking Lucho Acosta in this game. And when Acosta's not on the field for Cincinnati, even with the full other A team, you see the difference of this team. So I think Philly wins this game, and then Philly fans are going to be quickly turning over probably to the end of the Montreal and DC United.
You have them winning and not in, because I think you have draws in those other 2 games.
I do. I think Philly does win, but I think either both DC and Montreal, I think get a result ultimately at the end of the day. No, I don't. I have New York City winning. I got New York City beating Montreal.
Oh, I looked at the wrong.
I was going to say that doesn't sound right for what I picked. I do think Philly gets. I do think Philly gets in.
Oh, because I have a. Wait, how did I do it? I'm looking at the wrong games.
I don't know.
Charlotte winning.
No, you have New York City winning,
DC losing, and Montreal losing.
You're just like everyone's losing in front of Philly. Philly's rolling through this. You were Timber.
Well, in that scenario, though, that's super interesting. I think we'd have DC versus Philly in them, because I also have Atlanta losing.
Yeah, well, you're just full on Philly here, but
Philly would be hosting DC in that scenario, which I said a long time ago. But
you are You were no longer Timber Jason. You're Dupe Jason. That's it. That's the next one. Let's continue with the final two games of the Eastern Conference.
Ooh, fun games.
I'm just gonna roll through as quickly as humanly
We don't need to
possible
talk
here.
about these games. Both of them are
Chicago Fire hosting Nashville. Neither results matter. Both teams are out of the playoffs and are probably the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Jason, do you want to have a pick here, or do you just want to just
I don't think that it's necessary. I mean, I'll just pick the Fire because I want them to win. But
okay, I'm gonna go Nashville because BJ, because of BJ Callahan. That's my dude.
whatever, man. Whatever. I'll remember this moment.
Inter Miami hosting the New England Revolution. The result does not matter. Revs are not making the playoffs. They're eliminated. Miami, they're finishing first.
It does matter
In the East. But if you want to get down to the non-playoff seeding of it, the win for Miami would matter because if they do, they break the single season points record. If they draw,
everyone knows how much is riding on this.
A lot is riding on. So, Jason, who do you think is going to win this game?
I think Miami is going to win this game.
I think even if Miami does decide to not really play their stars, I think they win this game just based off of how the production of everyone else on that roster this season. But
I think what they'll do is similar to what game was that? 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weekends ago, where they didn't. Versus Toronto, they didn't start their stars, and then they brought them in like the 65th minute.
Yeah, play them like 20 minutes. I think
if they do anything, they'll do that.
Risking losing Messi. I know Messi is gonna not play because that's just who he is and how he's shown over the last 2 years, 3 years, his entire career that's how he plays. But ultimately,
he wants the records, man. He wants every record.
Tata wants it. I think Messi wants it. They want to break it, but it would suck if the MLS Cup Playoffs didn't have Lionel Messi. I'll just be honest. But that's it. That's the Eastern Conference. If any of that was confusing, sorry. I think that was maybe my best attempt and Jason's best attempt at not having that be so confusing, but that was the East. Here we are. Moving forward, rolling into the Western Conference games that, again, all begin at 9 p.m. Eastern. Jason, the most important game, quote unquote, that I feel like I pulled out of it was Real Salt Lake hosting the Vancouver Whitecaps because a lot can happen here. So I'm going to do my best. I'm really going to do my best on this one. RSL win. They can finish as high as third, but as low as fourth. So they're in that home playoff spot right there. If the Whitecaps lose, they can finish as high as seventh, as low as eighth. So they can avoid the play-in game, but if other results happen, they're in the play-in game. If RSL and Vancouver draw, then RSL can finish as high as third, as low as fourth. They kind of stick in that same spot there with the result. The Whitecaps can finish as high as sixth, but also finish as low as eighth, again, potentially getting into that play-in game. So the Whitecaps need a win ultimately to avoid the play-in game for sure and not rely on other results here, where RSL, they're kind of just, who do we want to face below us right now? Is it a third or a fourth place finish in the West? And who is that going to end up being ultimately? But they're in a home playoff spot. So, Jason, what are your thoughts around this one?
This is so tough. Okay, just to preface this, if we say like this team's going to win and this team's going to lose and it overlaps or something.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know what? There's way too much going on here.
You try doing this, okay?
This one is tough, right? Because I was down on RSL, and they've actually done decent over the last.
They've played better the last few weeks.
I mean, there was 3 draws in there, but at the same time, they've played a lot better in the last few weeks. I also think Vancouver has not played well in many weeks. Right, the last win they had was versus San Jose, which was I don't know, 2 months ago.
The last time I felt good about this team was when they won the Canadian Championship, and that was on PKs. That was the last time I felt good. Since then, it's been downhill.
Yeah, I mean, it has not been personally what I want to see out of the boys in Vancouver, right?
Out of the boys.
So I don't know. I think I'm gonna pick an RSL win, but I'm not thrilled about it.
I don't like it. No, I agree. I
would maybe pick a draw, but I don't feel that confident in Vancouver right now.
I don't disagree. I know Vancouver has been dealing with a lot of injuries back and forth the last few weeks with Brian White, Ryan Gauld, everything like that, right? And I know I could probably pull some positives out of my ass with like Ali Ahmed. It looked really good for Canada in this international window. And I still like what this team has been constructed to be, but ultimately the results as a team on the field for the Whitecaps, not Canada or Scotland or any other national team we're talking about, haven't been there in weeks. And I think RSL have been playing better. You're starting to see glimpses of it. Chicho Arango needs to be better for sure, but Diego Luna has been playing better, and I think you're seeing glimpses of what RSL was to start this season. I think RSL win. I think that they're the better team, and I think Vancouver struggles continue. Anything else about that one, Jason?
No.
All right. Next one, Seattle Sounders hosting the Portland Timbers. Again, two playoff teams technically, but we'll get into that. Any result for the Sounders, whether it's a win,
Wait,
draw.
before you go into this, how do you feel about these, third through sixth, I guess, in the West? Like,
I don't know, bro.
all of those matchups are hard.
It's so hard. It's a
Like,
clusterfuck. And ultimately, I was going to take a look at the end and see what our picks lined up for to be. And, do all of
I'm
that. Like,
guessing like it depends on Minnesota because
Minnesota's big.
you'd rather play Minnesota probably than Houston or Colorado, but
Yeah.
it's still just not like that's just like a brutal. No matter where you are in the West, it's tough, and I think we've been saying that. But
I probably should have told you this before recording, but I have a plan for telling the listeners how our seedings are going to look based off of our picks here. But I'll get that to you at the end. But
okay.
Results pretty much don't matter here. Again, Sounders, they win, lose, they draw. They can finish as high as third, low as fourth. Timbers, results don't matter. They're finishing in ninth. That's it. But there is a little, I mean, to me, it's not an official trophy. It's an off the field kind of honor, but there is the Cascadia, Cascadia Cup rights or fighting rights for the 2024 season in this game. Jason, how are you feeling? Is it Sounders win, Timbers
Well,
lose?
this is
What are
why
we
I
going
was
here?
trying to look at it in some ways the results do matter depending on if you want to finish third or fourth. But I honestly, the more I think about it, I think either way you're playing a tough opponent. So
I think every team's also
um,
not going into it being like, if we lose, we get
no,
fourth.
no, and
You
I don't
know?
think any team wants to. Like, no one's gonna throw it to be like, oh, I want to
Yeah,
play, Colorado or something. That's not what I mean. But it's more
yeah.
just like I don't know. I think Seattle, like this is what the millionth year in a row we've had like second half Seattle.
It's insane.
Since
I hate it.
they have 2 losses since week 17. Like
Yeah.
they have they put 4 goals at Columbus on Columbus. They beat Houston, Vancouver, Colorado. Like
They beat the best teams in the West outside of LAFC this year,
yeah. So I'm picking Seattle to win this. I think based on how they've been playing as they get their guys back, right? Like Pedro de la Vega is definitely back, right? I don't know. Every time he's back, I feel like he's not back. But
He's bouncing back and forth. He's like a New York City season, just riding the waves, just riding the waves of good and bad.
this team just it's one of those that I don't even know. It doesn't matter who's coaching. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like maybe it does. I don't know. Schmetzer's good at this stuff, man.
I love these picks because I'm picking Portland, by the way. And the only pure basis why I'm picking the Portland Timbers is because preseason, I picked the Timbers to win MLS Cup. You picked the Sounders to win MLS Cup. So I think we just got to stick with it for this
That's
decision
great,
making.
actually. But I do feel like the Seattle is playing probably
They're playing some of the
arguably
best.
the best in the league over the last
100,
half of the season.
100%. I
Yeah.
question them facing Galaxy, LAFC, Columbus, Miami,
I don't
but
think you would be worried about them. I mean, you'd be worried about any team playing any of those
but that's
teams,
what I'm
right?
saying is I think the Sounders are like that really good next class, but I don't know if they're top of the top.
I see.
But
I'm trying to get the head to head for each team. And they only played Columbus once and they crushed them.
I mean, that's if it was out West Coast, you're not going to win every game, Columbus, but it is what it is. All right.
Did they play Miami at all, or am I blind?
They might not have. I don't know. You're the one looking at this right now.
No, they didn't play Miami once this year. I don't know
Dang.
why I'm looking at those two teams anyways. That would be MLS Cup. I should have been looking at the LA and LAFC.
All right. Well, I know Seattle got crushed by LAFC, so
Yeah.
that's pretty much that. But I'm gonna move it forward, Jason.
Yeah.
Minnesota United hosting St. Louis City. This is an important result, not for St. Louis because it doesn't matter. They're not making the playoffs; they're eliminated. But if Minnesota United win, they can finish as high as 5th, which is absolutely insane that Minnesota's even in a spot this year that they can finish that high, but finish as low as 7. So a win, they're in a secure, true playoff spot. A draw or a loss, they're fighting for either the last secured playoff spot or a playing game spot. So a lot is on the line here for the Loons. But St. Louis has been playing some really fucking good soccer lately under Teutschert and Marcel Hartel and a lot of the guys that they brought in pretty much from the 2 Bundesliga. I'm going to go draw. I don't know. I don't have confidence in Minnesota. And I'm sorry to say that to the Minnesota United fans. I don't think that they're that good of a team. They've played a little bit better. Yes. I still think this team's a little unsteady under Eric Ramsey right now, and it's his first year, so I'll give him that. And he made the playoffs. He did what he had to do. I get that. That's cool, all of it. But I think St. Louis are going to be absolutely nasty next year based off the summer signings, and the summer signings are already clicking. So I'm going draw. I think St. Louis want to go out on a bang.
Is Minnesota the best team ever to lose 6 straight games in a season? Just thinking about it, man. That's crazy. I mean, they're playing a lot better recently since that massive 7 losses and 1 draw in 8 games. But I don't know. You kind of took the draw out of my mouth. Like that's a good pick. I think I'm gonna probably also pick a draw. If anything, I might even choose a St. Louis win, but I would probably pick a draw.
I was leaning St. Louis win, but I didn't want to shit on Minnesota.
Well, similar to what you've been saying is like that. There's who's home actually. This is going to change. Oh,
Minnesota is home. Minnesota's home.
Well, yeah, then I'm picking a draw. If they were away, I'm taking a loss though.
If it was at St. Louis, I think that's an easy pick for St. Louis win. But they are in Minnesota, and I do think Minnesota, they have a great home crowd, and probably maybe a little extra motivation, a little extra push to get that done. All right, Austin FC hosting Colorado Rapids, another non-playoff team versus playoff team here. Austin result does not matter. They're eliminated. They're done. But a result does matter here for the Rapids. If they win or draw, they can finish as high as 5th. If they draw or lose, they can finish as low as 7th, and they can finish kind of anywhere in fucking between there, 5, 6, 7, depending on the result. This is where the West gets way more confusing than the East, if you can believe that, people. But Jason, I'm going to turn this one to you first. Austin hosting Colorado. What are we thinking?
I think this one is maybe the hardest one for me to choose because of the weirdness around it, right? Like Colorado has not been that great lately.
No.
They've had a good season. They have a lot of talent on their team. I think going into the playoffs, they're still a team I don't want to play. I don't want to see, but I also think it's really weird because Austin's made a lot of changes, including Josh Wolf no longer being there over the last week or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or have they played a game since then, or what did it?
I don't think so. I think he got fired after the last
game.
So
I'm curious. Like, I think I would pick an Austin win if I knew they were going to come out and really put their all in. But it's the final game of the season. I'm worried they're going to come out and just be like, nobody cares. We don't even have a coach, right? Like, so there's a lot that could, because sometimes teams without a coach do amazing, right? They kind of take
it's the new coach bump, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there is no new coach, right, besides the interim, but this one's a tough one. I think so. If they lose, I'm gonna pick a Rapids loss. I'm probably gonna pick an Austin win. They're at home. I think final game of the season. There's new signings that are still trying to prove themselves. Go out there and prove yourself to the next coach, right? Somebody's out there looking at you. So
I think that's fair
statement.
I think it's 100% fair. You have to show that you're worthy to be
There's
on this
still a lot on the
roster.
line for the players. I mean,
Exactly.
so I mean, it doesn't matter in terms of standing for Austin, but they have a home game. I think the fans will show up for the final home game. Play spoiler a little bit.
The fans will be happy because Josh Wolf's no longer there. If you follow Austin fans on social media, but I'm going Colorado win. I know Cole Bassett has had a little bit of a knock in recent weeks. I'm kind of hoping just for his sake, because Cole Bassett's been really fun this season, that the week off kind of and the international break maybe kind of gave him a little bit of time to feel a little bit
I mean,
better.
the week off might help the whole team with 3 losses.
Exactly, right? And Georgie, I still think, has been one of the best players in all of Major League Soccer this season. Rafael Navajo needs to get back on the scoring sheet. He's kind of killing me after a hot start to his season as well. I do think Colorado wins, though. Austin, I see, again, similar to Vancouver here, I can probably pull some positives out of my ass and believe those positives, like Brad Stuver's a fucking beast in net. But ultimately, I just don't think that this is a team right now that I can say, even in 2025, it's going to be great, because I just don't know right now. So I think Colorado, I think they win. All right. Houston Dynamo hosting the LA Galaxy. This is like a classic decision day. Every single year, I feel like Houston's hosting the Galaxy. That's just maybe in my brain, but could also very much be a true fact because I pull random things out. But not really much on the line here for the Galaxy. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I did some bad math already. I texted you I did bad math, and then I just did bad math.
Yeah, I was like, I thought there was a lot on the line here.
Okay, Galaxy.
Especially because look who you might have to play.
Well, that is also very true. But Galaxy win, draw, they secure first place in the West. They're all good. Top seed, right? All good. But if they do lose and results go a certain way for LAFC, then the Galaxy could finish second in the Western Conference, and that changes a lot. For Houston, if Houston win, they are in 5th place. That's pretty much it. If Houston draw or lose, they can finish anywhere from 5th to 6th or 7th. So Houston fighting for hopefully trying to play a quote unquote easier team in the Western Conference. Obviously, again, both teams want to win. They want to finish off the regular season on the right foot. But Jason, I mean, I normally in this matchup, because this is why I know Houston hosts Galaxy every year on decision day, is because I always go, Houston's going to play spoiler to the Galaxy on decision day. I make the joke in the preseason without even probably looking at the schedule.
Last year.
So ultimately, what happened?
Technically, last year would have been the opposite, right? LA Galaxy could have played spoiler to.
True. Whatever. But ultimately, I gotta stick with the theme in my head, and really based off nothing else, I think Houston wins. I think Houston plays spoiler on decision day for the Galaxy. You can actually give an informed take. That was more just my own thought.
I mean, I was just trying to figure out if they were to lose, like how LAFC could beat the first team, right? Like I was just trying to look at it through the tiebreakers, which is
LAFC need a win, and
it's wins. So assuming in that scenario they'd have the same amount of wins, right? Anyways,
yes,
no matter what. If they were to go to a tiebreaker, then it would be goal differential,
which is close,
which is 2 goals apart currently. So if it's LAFC +2 there, then it goes. I don't know why I delete. Oh, then it goes for goals for. So LA Galaxy would win. So essentially, like LAFC would have to win
by 3, and Galaxy gets shut out
by 3. Well, they would just have to win by 3, and LA Galaxy have to lose. Doesn't matter if they score, as long as they lose.
Well, no, goal differential can change it.
Yeah, but they would lower their goal differential by 1.
True.
So,
yeah, no, you're right. That's again math.
Well, actually, I guess LAFC could go 2-0, and technically, if the Galaxy lose, it would also be it. I don't know. Math is so hard right now.
Okay, LAFC need to win to tie the Galaxy on wins for the season. Galaxy need a draw or lose, and then we'll just goal differential game at that point, and then we'll figure it out from there. But
it's not a complicated goal differential.
It's not. It's 2. It's 2.
All they have to do is win by 2.
No, but so yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, I mean that was just me like trying to work that out in my brain because I do think it's a possibility. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna pick the Galaxy to win here. I don't know why I've been kind of like not on them this season. I feel like the whole time I've been like, well, they give up a lot of goals. Can they sustain it? And I've said this probably for 30 weeks. And it's sustainable, right? They've beaten good teams. They beat LAFC. They beat, their last, I don't know, what is that, 10 games? 9 games? They're winning like crazy. So I'm probably gonna just pick them to win again because of their form, because of where they at. Like the signings they've made, Peck, Paintsel. I don't know. Like you can just name this whole roster, and a lot of them are really good. Props to the Galaxy for turning this around. Puig is still amazing. Like they're a good team, and I'm ready to just say it, man. I'm ready to just like accept the fact that they're a great team. And
I love it because like normally you and I and other like MLS people out there like rave about like the top 2 teams in each conference like at the end of the year and stuff. And
because
everyone's
there's a lot of
talking
times there's a big gap, and I don't know if there's a big gap this year. There is in the East. I don't know if there is as much in the West, but I feel like I've never given the Galaxy their credit, and they're ready to take the Western top spot, man, and they deserve it.
Well, to be fair, since you and I have done this podcast, the Galaxy have not been good. That's also just a fact.
Might have been like the first year they might have been decent.
Maybe. I don't think so. Doesn't matter. But ultimately, Galaxy, they are really good. The Galaxy, I think, have 2 potential best 11 players in Puig and Gabriel Peck. But again, just for my own theme in my head for decision day, Houston Galaxy, I just have to go with Houston. So
I think I don't think that's like crazy to imagine either.
Especially
my brain was trying to work out how LAFC could be number 1 because I feel like that's just how it should be. But
right.
That's also me saying, why am I not giving the credit that I think the Galaxy deserve?
I like that you worked that out. You worked that out real well. I like that.
Is the defense the best thing about the team? No, it's easily the worst thing.
It's not awful either. Like it's not terrible. It's not
good. I feel like the first week of the season, and I don't know if this is why I'm still so
week 1 is still impacting you right now.
It was like 5-4s back to I don't even remember, but it was bad.
I love it.
It wasn't even that. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking.
It's fine. Look, it was just coming into the season. I think everyone was talking about how bad the Galaxy backline is going to be. They showed points of being bad for sure, especially when Jalen Neal wasn't out there. But him healthy, and I think this latter part of the season, the Galaxy have again not been a great defensive team or even maybe a good defensive team. I think they've been an average defensive team, but with that attack, average kind of works out. And again, I love
playing away. It isn't great, but Houston also doesn't have the best home record in the league.
No, to me, I don't know the injury status right now to Hector Herrera. If he is back again, taking the last few weeks off due to injury. Hector Herrera changes the team 100%. So that is also going to be something that we will see when the lineups and the rosters get announced and all of that.
Hector Herrera makes this team so much better.
He's a complete.
He makes Coco Carrasquilla look like a best 11 player.
I think Coco Carrasquilla talent-wise is amazing, but Hector Herrera elevates.
Yeah, I don't mean to underrate him. I just mean Hector Herrera makes these guys look so good. Everyone.
Well, especially because Herrera playing next to Artur is better than Carrasquilla playing next to Artur, which he's had to since the Herrera injury. I think Coco Carrasquilla is better up the field, and Hector Herrera allows that.
Carrasquilla on the wings is just like terrorizing it.
Exactly. It changes this entire
best spot. They just need him there to be successful, I think.
Yeah, and they just know that Karski is also the next best replacement for Hector Herrera in that sense.
I think they need to make a signing. I think we just determined that.
Yeah, that's it, right?
In the summer.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the last 2 Western Conference games. This next one we can make pretty quick because we talked about it pretty much already. But LAFC hosting the San Jose Earthquakes. Quakes result doesn't matter. Worst team in the league points wise. LAFC, if they draw or lose, they're in second. That's it. If they win, and again, if the Galaxy result goes their way or not, they can finish first in the West. But most likely, LAFC will be finishing second. But Jason, do you have a pick?
If they don't win by 2, forget about it, right? They're finishing second.
Which
If
they
win
can.
by 2, then they will. Yeah, I do think they will win by 2. Okay, for San Jose, this isn't a tough one to predict. But yeah, like if you're a Galaxy fan, I guess you just don't want them to win by 2,
That's it.
or just let your team win or draw. Like,
Or if you're a Galaxy fan, you're rooting for San Jose 1 week out of the year, you know?
I mean, the Galaxy have lost 7 times all season. Like, all you have to do is not make that 8.
Yeah, that's
It
it.
shouldn't be that hard, right? This
That's
is
it.
a long season. That's a big sample size.
All right, Jason, last game,
No,
Dallas
we
hosting.
should have done this one first.
We should have. I just knocked this one out. But Dallas hosting SKC. Do you have a pick? Do you
I'm
care to
picking
have a
Dallas.
pick? Dallas win, just for shits and giggles of picking opposite of you. Let's go SKC win, and we'll take it from there. All right. Do you want to just say those are our picks? This is the episode. Call it, or take a quick pause, and I can add these up, and we can see
I think
where
we
we
should.
have.
I mean, can we pause?
Yeah, I can. Pause.
I mean, we might as well pause and add them up.
I can pause. All right.
Not back.
Nope. No, now
now
we're back. All right. So we did just pause for the last few minutes just to calculate based off our picks how the playoffs would look. In the Eastern Conference,
are you going to go like 1-1, 2-2?
I'll read off mine. You want to read off yours, and then we'll do the same for the West? All right. Yep. So in the Eastern Conference, I have Miami 1, Columbus 2, Cincinnati 3. Not shockers there. Orlando 4, New York City 5, Charlotte 6, Red Bull 7, and then the play-in madness. I have DC 8, Philly 9, Montreal outside the playoffs.
I just realized ours are essentially the same.
Is it?
So I have Miami first, Columbus, Cincinnati. You know, that's like guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Then I have Orlando, NYC, Charlotte, Red Bulls. Then I have Philly hosting DC. In yours, you have DC hosting Philly, and then I have Montreal.
So we do have the same picks, other than just the play-in game.
Who is hosting the play-in game?
Exactly. Okay, that's fine. You know what? I like that we're in agreement. That shows.
I also don't feel like this is as chaotic.
It's less for sure. We were calm with the East, and then we just went Western Conference fucking madness. So out in the West, I have, based off my picks, which I'm kind of regretting now, LAFC 1, Galaxy 2, Real Salt Lake 3, Seattle 4, Houston 5, Colorado 6, Minnesota 7, Vancouver 8, the Portland Timbers in 9th. My dark horse MLS Cup pick in 9th. Jason,
what's funny is this is all the only teams that are different than ours is the top 4. I have the Galaxy first, LAFC in second, Seattle in third, RSL in fourth, Houston in fifth, Colorado 6th, Minnesota 7th, and then Vancouver hosting Portland for the play-in game.
You know, I like your picks better than mine. I'll just be real honest with
I like
people
my
out there.
matchups. I think this would be some fun matchups.
So, Jason, if we don't get the chance to record a play-in game preview, and we're going purely based off our picks, which may not be accurate whatsoever, there's a lot to that there.
Yeah, that's tough. I think obviously Portland's going to be in both, and DC will.
We both we both have Philly and DC playing each other. We just have different hosts. Who do you think wins the matchup between DC and Philly?
I think if Philly makes it into this spot, Philly wins this game.
Got it. Okay. I'm going
Especially
DC.
if they make it into the spot, they will be hosting one of these teams.
I'm going DC. I believe in Troy Lesane. I believe in the
You're
head
going DC regardless?
Regardless.
Okay.
Because I believe
if DC plays Montreal, I think I would go DC.
No matter who plays each other, if it's Atlanta, Montreal, Philly, whatever, I'm going DC.
I forgot Atlanta even has a chance.
Purely with the basis of Christian Benteke's header. That's pretty much it.
Philly versus anyone, and then I would say DC second.
That's fine. All right. Vancouver. We both have Vancouver and Portland in our play-in game. Jason, who do you think?
I'm going Portland.
Portland. Let's go. It's my boys.
They're just gonna score 7.
I mean, yeah, they might let up 6, but they will score 7 on you. And that is
this is the team I thought the Galaxy were.
This is our decision day preview. There was a lot there. If anything is confusing, you know, do a little research yourself too, and maybe you understand why it was confusing for us to talk about for all of this. But
We basically did games of the week already. They're all
that's
games
it.
of the week, pretty
That's
much.
it. Every single game is
Well,
the
not
game
every
of the
single
week.
game. There's a couple that are brutal.
Chicago, Nashville, SKC, Dallas, I think. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I guess I mean, Miami's worth watching just out of the fact
The
that
points.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But hope you guys sit down Saturday. I hope you can relax, have a soda, a beer, whatever you enjoy most in your hand, and you enjoy some MLS soccer on Saturday. And then the playoffs are here. Jason, thank you, sir, for doing this with me and doing it earlier than normal. And we will see you guys next week. Maybe mini episode, but definitely next week.